All right, time to get rocking here. Now, listen, as I made up this quiz, I said to myself, okay, I know they're going to get number 1 right, and I know they're going to get number 2 right, but I don't know if they're going to remember number 3. Now, here's the cool thing. Even if you didn't, Parker, the cool thing is, I thought it was some of the things that you did right before the break when Jimmy was here. One of the cool things is it's really simple, and it's going to make perfect sense to you once we show it to you. Okay? If you didn't get it, there were 2 people who were even able to figure it out without it having been shown to them recently, at least. So let's go through this step by step, and it's a good reason to have things going. Now, we said with number 1 and number 2 that we weren't going to go over that you were supposed to do that from your seat. So now we're going to go over number 3. Graph the line 2y equals negative 3x plus 6. Now, when it comes to graphing lines, what is the overriding thing we're supposed to remember at all times? Everybody?
Y equals mx plus b.
Very good. Y equals mx plus b. Now, I want you to notice something there. If you have gotten to know me at all, you know that I'm not a fan of President Obama.
Oh, okay.
If President Obama walked through that door, I would not say, "Yo, man, sup, dog, happening?" This is the President of the United States of America. And regardless of how I feel about his policies personally, I actually respect a ton of things he's done in his own life. But I feel his policies are harmful. Now, if he walks through the door, his position, his office deserves a certain amount of respect. So it would be, "Yes, hello, Mr. President, sir." And I would even shake his hand, even though I would do anything to beat him in an election. I would still shake his hand because his position deserves that much respect. We always begin with the position. He is the President of the United States of America, whether we like it or not. Now, y equals mx plus b. This is the President. This presides, which is where the term President comes from. This presides over everything with graphing. But I want you to notice something here. What does it begin with? Y equals. What does the question begin with?
2y.
Do you notice a difference?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
No.
It has a little.
Did you say no?
No,
Oh, you said no. I'm sorry. I don't hear very well. I've been married almost 30 years. You know how this goes.
just joking.
Oh, okay. So what's the difference then? There's a 2. See, this says 2y equals negative 3x plus 6. Now, when this, let me ask you a question. If I gave you an equation that looked like this, 2y equals 10, how would you solve that? Divide by 2. Wait a minute. Are you telling me it's this easy?
No.
If I would divide that by 2, what do you suppose I ought to do here?
Multiply by 2.
Yeah, right. All right, so I'm just going to divide by 2 here. Same as before. Die. Y equals negative 3 halves x plus 3.
Well,
That's it. What's the slope? I said, what if I gave you 2y equals 10? How would you solve it? You told me you would divide by 2. So now that I have 2y equals blah, 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 I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to divide by 2. So now I get y equals negative 3 halves x plus 3. What's the slope, everybody?
9.
Negative 3 halves. And what's the y-intercept?
B.
Which is 3, right. So I begin, I go over here to 3, I make a mark, and I go down 3 over 2, down 3 over 2, down 3 over 2. Dominique, you with me on that? Backside here? I did notice a couple of people, I'm not sure, didn't put arrows on the end, right? Put arrows on the end. Always put arrows on the end. Okay? All right. Now, let me ask you a question. Excuse me. Was there anything difficult about that? No, I don't think so either. Andre, you gotta be with me here, kid. I don't want you to mess this up tomorrow. What if I gave you one that looked like this? Try to understand this all the way around. What if I gave you one that said y plus 3x equals 4? Is that in the proper form? No. What's wrong with it? Well, what's backwards about it? I want specifics. Andre?
The y, the equal sign, and the plus sign just do switch.
Oh, that's one way to look at it. The bottom line is, if you want to say it, the 3x is on the wrong side. Right? Is that a good way to put it? So that says y plus 3x. Now let's go back to this. If I said y plus 2 equals 10, how would I handle that? Subtract 2. So what do you think I'm going to do here?
Subtract.
Subtract 3x. That's it. So I'm going to get y equals negative 3x plus 4. Now what's the slope?
3x,
Negative 3, right? X is never part of the slope. And what's the y-intercept? 4. Does that make sense, everybody? So the big lesson for today, or the big thing we want to emphasize, is that we always want to say y equals. If it doesn't say y equals, you need to manipulate it, just like solving equations. If it says 2y, divide by 2. If it says y plus 2, subtract 2. You need to manipulate it so that you get it to read like the general equation of a line, y equals mx plus b. Until you get it to say y equals, you cannot graph it. Am I clear on that?
Yes.
What did I say?
If you cannot get it to be y equal, you cannot grab it. If it's not
First
y,
off, there's
you
only one
can't
person
say-
even involved, which is you're doing the job right. Everybody else is either comatose or whatever. Listen to me carefully because you're going to repeat this. Ready? You can't graph it until it says y equals. What'd I just say?
You can't grab it until it says y.
That's right. So if I said to you 3y plus 2x equals 12, what's bad about that? There's two bad things. What's one of them?
The y should be alone.
The y should be alone. Well, what's stopping it from being alone?
The 3 and
The 3 and the 2x. How do I undo or inverse the 2x? Everybody?
subtract.
Subtract it. After I subtract that, what would I do to get the y finally by itself? Divide it by 3. And that's how I would do the problem. Does that make sense? I'm going to pause now for 30 seconds, and I want you to write yourself a note on your quiz so that when you go home tonight and you look at your quiz before you start your homework, you will remind yourself for tomorrow. Go ahead, 30 seconds. Write yourself a note of whatever it is you need to remember about that question. Question? Okay. If I sat next to you, I would be stuck in my seat all period. All right. So, we are done with this now. And it's time to... Oh, man. All right, it's time to go over this. Now, the first question I consider to be one of the most difficult questions in the entire course. That might not be quite as true now that we do Common Core, but in the past when we did Common Core, or before we did Common Core, this was, in my opinion, one of the 2 or 3 hardest things we learned all year long. Now I put it in the top 10. Write the equational line passing through -1, 5, and 2, 1. There are 2 ways to do this. If I were taking a test, personally, I would plot the points. I would draw the line, and I would look to see the slope and look to see where it crossed the y-axis. And if it crosses the y-axis at a perfect point, let's say it looked like this, and it went right through the 2, I'd say, okay, there's my b, and then I would just count the slope for the y-intercept, and I would say y equals whatever the slope was, let's say it was -1/2 plus 2. And that would be my answer. That to me is the easiest way to do this. But I didn't give you a piece of graph paper here. So I kind of want you to do it the hard way. Now, sometimes you have to do it the hard way. The reason is because sometimes it doesn't go exactly through that point. Sometimes it goes through there. And you might say, oh, well, that's a half. Maybe it's 4/10. Maybe it's 7/11. It's tough to tell. So we need to be able to do this what we would call analytically. And that works like this. We start with y equals mx plus b. So what I'm going to do is try to find the slope first. What's the formula for slope again, everybody?
Y equals
No, that's the formula for a line. What's the formula for slope? Y sub 2 minus what? Y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And the 2's and 1's just means the first and second point, so I'm going to label them right there. So this is going to be the y from the second point minus the y from the first, which is 1 minus 5. and then the x from the second minus the x from the first, which is 2 minus negative 1. Now, 1 minus 5 is negative 4, and 2 minus negative 1 is 3. So, I get y equals negative 4/3 x plus b. What's the problem? Is this a complete and full answer, James?
There's no y-intercept?
Yeah, I don't know the y-intercept yet. What is b? This is a very challenging question. Can anybody think of a way to find b? There is obviously one, or I wouldn't ask that question, but it's very, very difficult to see. And then when you see it, you're like, that's it. Okay, there's no direct way to find b. However, isn't it true that we know 2 points?
Yeah.
And isn't any point always x comma y? So therefore, when I see 2, 1, what I really see is that when x is 2, y is 1. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write 1 equals negative 4/3 times 2 plus b. In other words, I'm going to substitute xy for xy. And I put the 2 in for the x, see there it is, and I put the 1 in for the y, there it is. So this will become 1 equals negative 8/3 plus b. Now how many people hate fractions? Okay, the good news is they give you a graphing calculator. Let's do it all together on the graphing calculator. How do you solve this? What do I have to do to both sides? I don't multiply and add what?
B.
No, you want to solve for b, so you got to get b by itself. What do I have to do?
Oh, so you added negative 8/3.
Well, you're going to add positive 8 over 3. You're going to add plus 8 over 3. So on your calculator, do 1 plus, and then the solution will be to add 8/3 to both sides. And it'll tell you b equals. So do 1 plus, and then parenthesis, 8 divided by 3 parenthesis. You're going to get a decimal. Whenever you get a decimal, when you want fractions, what do you do after that?
Enter, enter.
Math, enter, enter. Very good. Lily, what do you get?
11/3.
That's right. So b works out to be 11/3, and now I can take my answer where I was over here, and instead of b, I can put 11/3. Now, let's go back to what I said a couple of minutes ago. I said that if I was given a question like this, I would always try to graph it. Because if I can graph it, I can just look for the y-intercept if it's on a perfect point, and I can count the slope, and it's easy. The problem is, sometimes it doesn't go through a perfect point. Remember I said sometimes it goes through like over here. If that's the case, you have to do this alternative approach. So the first step is to say y equals mx plus b. We always, when it says write the equation of a line, that's always the thing we begin with. That's step 1. Step 2 is over here, find the slope. And step 3 is take an x and a y, plug them in, and solve. Okay, so it's 3 steps. Y equals mx plus b, find the slope, then take either point, plug in the x and the y, use that to get b, and then you have your equation. This is tough. This is a very challenging question. First thing we had to show you today was not difficult. Divide, add, whatever. This is tough. We got to get this down pat. You know me well enough to know this will probably be on the next 3 do-its in a row and on the next 3 homeworks in a row. So you probably have it by the end of that time. Okay, any questions? Don't be frustrated with yourself if you didn't get it right away. It's normal. But you should be getting better at it tomorrow. Okay, now the next question is really what you're supposed to, what the lesson is about today. Both of those topics were kind of reviewed because y equals mx plus b is something we've been doing for a while. Now we're going to do graphing piecewise linear functions. And what we're going to do is we're going to graph over intervals with changing slopes. The one thing I forgot to do with this problem is give you a point to begin at. So let's begin at the point, for argument's sake, let's go -4, -2. So everybody go to -4, -2, make your mark. Oh, I'm sorry, -5, -2. -5, -2. Now, all I'm going to do is follow the directions over the given interval. I'm going to now do what kind of slope? Up 3 over 4. So we're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm at -1. So this is my first part of this. Now what does the new slope become? See, I did this, right? And that got me to this point. What's the x-coordinate of this point here? Guys, look. What is the x-coordinate of this point right here? -1. Where does this next interval begin? -1. I'm going to go to 2, and what slope am I going to use to get there? -1. So I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. There's the next part of my graph. Now, I'm at 2. I'm going to go all the way up to 5, and what slope am I going to use this time? 2. So I'm going to go what? Up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and that brings me from 2 to 3 to 4, up again to 5. Then, notice now I'm at 5. Now I'm going to go to what? 8. And what slope am I going to use now? So I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. Okay, so there's a kind of like a funky looking design right there, almost like mountaintops, Colorado Rockies. Are any pieces parallel?
Yes.
Yeah, which two pieces are parallel? Call them first, second, third, fourth.
Second and fourth.
Second and fourth. What do you notice about the slopes on the second and fourth?
The same.
They're the same. So what do you think you can conclude about parallel lines and slopes? Everybody?
They're the same.
Yeah, parallel lines have equal slopes. So you got to write that somewhere on your paper. Ready? Parallel lines have what again?
Equal slope.
Equal slopes. Okay, so we did piecewise linear graphs earlier in the year. Remember we did that problem about snowfall? Right, we did a problem earlier in the year, or we did the one about time flies.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Linquist ties flies, he ties 2 flies an hour, and then he ties 3 flies an hour. And then there was also one about snowfall. At 9 o'clock the snow started, it fell at 1 inch per 2 hours, and then it went 3 inches per hour, and you would change the graph. This is a piecewise linear function too. The only difference is here, I forgot to give you a point to start with. You always have to have a point to start with. You're always going to start, the x-coordinate's always going to match here, so that you have a place to start. And then you just go from interval to interval to interval, and you follow whatever they say the slope is over that interval. Okay? All right, let's go to the next. They each start at their door, and they walk at a steady pace toward each other. Steady pace means constant change. Constant change means straight line. So that steady pace means you're going to make straight lines. Okay, I'm going to go over to the other side. Now, they start at the door and walk steady pace toward each other. Okay, suppose that. I need to start there. There we go. Maya walks at a constant rate of 3 feet every second. All right, how many feet apart are they?
3.
No, when they start. 50 feet apart. Okay, so let's use this particular graph, and let's do this graph by, I'm going to go by 2s, okay? Can I make it by 2s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if I can do it by 2s. I'm going to do it by 4s. Okay, so 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 42, pardon me, 44, 48, 52. And this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so they start 50 feet apart. So I'm going to have one of them start at 0 and the other one start at 50. The awkward thing about that is it's right in the middle. So who's the one that's 50 feet away there for a second? All right, look at it both. It won't matter. All right. Earl walks 4 feet every second. So what is Earl's slope? 4 to 1. But notice, what does each box equal? 4. So he's really going to go up 1 over 1. Because each time he goes up 1, how much has he really gone up? 4. Okay? So this is Earl. All right? I'm going to label that one Earl. Now, let's do Maya. How much does Maya walk? 3 feet per second. And it says they walk toward each other. So now this is going to be a little tricky. Each box is 4, so this is 2 and 1 makes 3. And then, you see, 3 would put me at 47, so 3 more puts me at 44. 3 more puts me at what? 41. 3 more puts me at 38. 3 more puts me at 35. 3 more puts me at 32. 3 more puts me at 29, and then 3 more after that will put me at 26. So here is Mia, or Maya. All right. Now, according to your graphs, approximately, that's nice because they don't meet at a perfect point, how far will they be from Maya's door when they meet? Now, Maya's the green one. So we started at 50, and where are they meeting here? That's at about what? 29, right? So if I went from 50 to 29, how far from Maya's door am I? 50 to 29, how far am I? 21. All right, so the answer is 21 feet away. Now, I could have put Maya on the bottom. It would have made more sense to put Maya on the bottom. Then I wouldn't have to subtract from 50 at the end. Okay? Any question on that? According to your graphs, approximately how far will they be from Maya's door? You said that? Graph both peoples, we did that, and so on and so forth. So what we're doing with this, what's a little bit different is we're doing 2 graphs at the same time. And we're seeing where they meet. And the other thing we're doing is we're using slightly different scales. Okay? That's the big thing that you had to learn for today's lesson. All right, folks. Hasta la vista. Vaya con Dios. Toodaloo. Ta-ta. Arrivederci. Smile a lot. Ciao. Zing. Adios, amigos. See you, amigas. Hey, a lot of stuff to look over tonight, folks. Make sure you're paying attention to that, getting the Y by itself, and then how to work these. We'll do another day of this tomorrow.